Balloon 5-1, the National Airspace System. The National Airspace System, NAS, is an extensive network encompassing all elements related to airspace in the United States. This includes air navigation facilities, equipment, services, airports, aeronautical charts, rules, regulations, procedures, technical information, manpower, and material. To align with international aviation standards, the U.S. adopted the classification system developed by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. Departing from conventional norms, this handbook presents airspace discussions in reverse order, simplifying learning from the least complicated to the most complex. Visual flight rules, VFR, weather minimums specifically for balloon operations are covered, omitting details for instrument flight rules, IFR, or night flight as they are less relevant for balloon pilots. Airspace is categorized into regulatory and non-regulatory types, further divided into uncontrolled, controlled special use, and other airspace. Sport balloon operations primarily occur in Class E or G airspace. Uncontrolled or Class G airspace extends from the surface to the base of overlying Class E airspace. While air traffic control, ATC, lacks authority here, pilots must adhere to visual flight rules minimums. Most balloon operations take place in Class G airspace, where no communications requirements exist. Class E airspace, generally covering controlled airspace not designated A, B, C, or D, extends from the surface or a designated altitude. Federal airways and airspace used for transitioning to and from terminal or en route environments also fall under Class E visibility, and cloud clearance requirements mirror those of Class G airspace, with adjustments above 10,000 feet mean sea level. Class D airspace encompasses the area from the surface to 2,500 feet above ground level around airports with operational control towers. Pilots need to establish two-way radio communications before entering, and visibility and cloud clearance requirements align with standard visual flight rules parameters. Class C airspace surrounds airports with control towers, radar approach control, and specific instrument flight rules or passenger operations. Charted in feet mean sea level, it features distinct dimensions and communication procedures. Pilots must establish two-way radio communications before entering, with visibility and cloud clearance requirements similar to Class D airspace. While technically feasible, balloon operations in Class C airspace are generally discouraged due to equipment requirements like a transponder. Balloon pilots are encouraged to exercise caution, maintaining awareness and remaining clear of controlled airspace as a matter of courtesy. Understanding airspace classification is vital for safe and responsible balloon operations, ensuring compliance with regulations and enhancing overall safety. Now, the Class B airspace is a bit like the bustling city center for airplanes, extending from the ground up to 10,000 feet around the busiest airports. It's the aviation equivalent of downtown with its own set of rules. Imagine it as the central hub where aircraft need permission to enter, and once inside, they get exclusive services like separation assistance. Now, for balloons, it's not the easiest spot to navigate, but you can still cruise around the edges. Just let air traffic control know in advance if you need to pass through. Think of it like strolling through the outskirts of downtown, staying clear of the busy core. Since planes in Class B are under radar control, the cloud clearance rule is straightforward. Stay out of them and keep a comfortable 3 statute miles of visibility. Moving up the hierarchy, Class A airspace is the high-altitude realm, starting at 18,000 feet up to flight level 600. It's like the penthouse for planes, but strictly reserved for instrument flight rules operations. Balloons usually don't float into this territory unless they've got some special waiver or a unique mission. Now let's dive into the fascinating world of special use airspace, the designated zones where certain activities get their own space or put some rules on other aircraft. Prohibited areas are strict no-fly zones like the airspace around Camp David. Restricted areas have some rules. You can fly, but with restrictions. Balloons typically steer clear of Class B airspace due to potential traffic issues and radar complexities. The details of special use airspace, including prohibited and restricted areas, are right there on the sectional charts with extra info on the back panels. If you need to venture into restricted areas, giving a heads up to air traffic control is a savvy move. These areas are marked with an R followed by a number. Stay informed to ensure your balloon flights are smooth and trouble-free. Let's dive into the airspace playground, starting with military operation areas, MOAs. Picture these as exclusive zones where military jets strut their stuff, complete with defined boundaries to keep the acrobatics away from regular air traffic. It's like a designated dance floor in the sky, and while VFR flights can pass through, pilots should keep their eyes peeled for unexpected aerial maneuvers. It's a bit like sharing the airspace with high-flying performers. Think of these as open-air studios for pilots. They're marked with an A followed by a number, indicating hotspots for pilot training or quirky aerial activities. It's like an artist's workspace, and pilots in and around these areas share the responsibility of dodging each other. It adds a touch of creativity to the airspace, with everyone contributing to a smooth and safe flight. Moving on to controlled firing areas, these are like safety zones for military exercises. The unique twist here is that activities pause if there's any hint of an aircraft approaching. It's like having a pause button in the sky for safety during potentially hazardous maneuvers. Let's shift our focus to the other airspace areas. Imagine airport advisory areas as friendly pit stops within 10 miles of an airport lacking a control tower, but equipped with a flight service station, FSS, for advisory services. It's like having a local guide helping pilots navigate the region, a go-to source for the inside scoop. Military training routes, MTRs, are the highways for military planes to practice tactical flying, marked with blue lines on charts. If you're floating near one, it's wise to check with a briefer to know if any routes are active. With military planes buzzing around, balloon pilots need to steer clear to avoid potential mid-air conflicts. It's like avoiding a busy expressway during rush hour. Temporary flight restrictions, TFRs, are like do not disturb signs in the sky. They pop up for various reasons like forest fires or special events, and pilots need to check notices to airmen for these virtual roadblocks. It's a bit like navigating detours during a city parade. You need to plan ahead to avoid surprises. Finally, let's touch on national security areas, NSAs. These are the guarded zones in the airspace, set up for increased security around ground facilities. These areas may have temporary flight prohibitions for security reasons, announced through notices to airmen. It's like adding an extra layer of protection to certain places in the sky. So as you soar through the skies, keep an eye out for these different zones, each with its unique set of rules and activities, ensuring a safe and enjoyable flight. Let's demystify the world of radio communications in the National Airspace System, NAS. Picture it as a big radio playground where balloons need to groove without stepping on each other's signals. So when you're up there, radio chatter is your buddy. You might need to talk to control towers, other pilots, or agencies, but don't treat it like a phone call. The Federal Communications Commission says no to using aviation radios as your personal hotline. Fines might rain down if you do. No need for a license in the US, but if you're globetrotting, grab a restricted radio telephone permit from the Federal Communications Commission. Keep in mind, handheld radios and balloons don't need a station license unless you're floating across borders. Check local rules first. Keep it short, use the right lingo, and save the airspace bandwidth. No one wants their emergency call drowned out by chit-chat about picnic plans. Less is more in the radio world. Now, the phonetic alphabet is your secret code for radio talks. When you're chatting with air traffic control, toss in a little Alpha, Bravo, and so on. It's like having a secret language to identify your balloon. When departing from a non-towered airport, give a shout-out on Universal Communications or Common Traffic Advisory frequency. Know your location and where you're headed. A polite heads-up for the sky neighborhood. Transiting a non-towered area? Let others know what's up. No landing plans, just passing through. It's like signaling your intentions on the road. A courteous heads-up. Approaching controlled airspace? Give the approach control a heads-up. Time it right to land if they say stand by. If they say your call sign, you're good to enter. Keep chatting until you're clear or on the ground. If radios go silent or you're radioless, control towers have a cool light gun. It's like a traffic signal for balloons, guiding you on field options. A white light means you're good to land, and a red light, well, let's say it's a hold on a sec signal. Many balloonists fly radio-free for years, but hey, it's not rocket science. With practice, using a radio can spice up your flight. Most air traffic controllers love balloons and will help you soar safely. To sum it up, the National Airspace System might seem complex, but it's doable. Just play nice, understand the airspace dance, and you'll navigate the skies smoothly. It's all about courtesy, common sense, and sharing the skies with fellow aviators.